Welcome to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil, the official Monster Jam podcast. I'm Scott Jordan. A lot of the fans that come to our shows dream of driving a Monster Jam truck. That dream was no different for one of the biggest rising stars in the sport. As we go to the Great Clips hotline to welcome in my guest this week from Houston, Texas, El Toro Loco's Elvis Lainez. Elvis, welcome to Inside Monster Jam. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. We were finally able to get on the same schedule.
I know, thank goodness for that. I've been hounding you for weeks, and finally I get you on. I'm going to make the most of this time. I'm excited to chat with you. Let's talk about a life before being a driver, when you were a fan of the sport. It's no secret you talk about this a lot during trackside, during the events as well. I believe 2 years old was the first time you went to Monster Jam, correct?
Yeah, it was actually at the Houston Astrodome. The one thing I remember from it was the year where Tom Meents was essentially driving Team Meents, and he, got into a situation with a bus stack and planted the truck vertically into a wheelie, and, the truck was just stuck there at the very end of the show. So just kind of hearing, 60,000 fans go crazy, and that's really the only thing I remember from that event. And from then on, I kind of always knew that this was something I wanted to do. But we also, kind of always planned our New Year celebration around Monster Jam, because Monster Jam traditionally has an event in Houston on the first weekend of January. So I was always looking forward to those, right before school started, to kind of go to my first Monster Jam event of the year and, start the year off right.
It's amazing that you remember anything about that, because I can't remember some things I did last week. So for you to have memories, vivid memories of your 2-year-old self is amazing. So kids all over the world have different things that attract them, superheroes, professional wrestling, football, sports. What drew you to Monster Jam?
Man, I honestly think it's just that it was something I've never seen before. And honestly, it was something that just kind of caught my attention because, as a little kid, I was always kind of trying to find ways to get into situations, whether it was with a bicycle or a four-wheeler, and kind of doing things that you shouldn't be doing with them. And that was kind of like my adrenaline outside of sports, and there was something in football and soccer that necessarily couldn't be fulfilled in me that, when I got to Monster Jam, it, was everything that I wanted, because I knew that at the end of the day, this was something that, not just anyone can do. And I have total control of the situation of where I can push my adrenaline to, and the truck. So it's a really exciting thing for me, for sure.
I know your family's been to quite a few events and you've addressed them. I know you're very close to your mom. What was your family's response to you as a kid when you say, "Hey, this is what I want to do when I grow up"?
Man, they honestly thought it was a phase, that, my mom was kind of always like, hey, you got to go to college, get your degree, be an engineer, be an architect, et cetera. And same thing with my dad. But, I was a very passionate sports player for sure. So I kind of was hoping that maybe an avenue would open up there. And I was pretty good at school, but honestly, it wasn't necessarily my passion, and it just kind of felt like it was forced for me. So, eventually in high school, I was like, man, I don't really know what I want to do, but I know for sure I want to drive a monster truck at some point in my life, and that's when I started working on the trucks. I messaged Morgan Kane at the age of 15. He gave me the opportunity to start helping out there, and that crew was Josh Dyke, and Josh Dyke, as we all know, eventually ended up being Tom Meents' loyal crew chief for quite a good amount of years, and anytime that they came through a city, or I was somewhere that they were at, he gave me the opportunity to help them out, and obviously made a really good relationship with Tom Meents. And at the age of 17, he just told me to stand next to a truck, took a picture of me, and next thing you know, at the age of 18, Pete Speller and I are having a conversation at the World Finals in Vegas, and one thing led to another. And 2 weeks before I graduated high school, I got the chance to drive a monster truck for the first time, man. And honestly, I don't know how I got called back because I was so nervous, but I'm really fortunate for sure.
I think you are a perfect example of everything that our fans can become, and you handle yourself in an amazing way out there, inspiring them. That's what we're all about, inspiring our young fans. That's why I wanted to have you on, because you are an inspiration to little kids all over the world. So coming up next, more with El Toro Loco's Elvis Lainez's Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil, continues. Welcome back to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. My guest this week on the Great Clips Hotline is El Toro Loco's Elvis Lainez. Elvis, you mentioned in a previous segment that you messaged Morgan Kane on Instagram, which sounds like a very easy process. However, you had a very long road to get to where you are now behind the wheel of El Toro Loco. So when you started this thing out, you worked your way up, crewing for different people, volunteering for different people. How did that process affect you as a driver and help you along the way?
Man, honestly, it was just to persevere through the good and the bad, because as a 17, 16-year-old kid, trying to get out there and, message a bunch of different people, not only was I just helping at Monster Jam events, but also independent shows when I could. And, sometimes you just get left on red, and that's a part of the nature of the business. And so you just have to look forward to get past that, and honestly, I wouldn't be here without my family, but also my good friends, man, Alex Barden, Forrest. They were there with me for this whole ride. I remember we drove from Jacksonville to El Paso in 1 week just to go to a Monster Jam event, and thankfully we all got to help out. And he was definitely, a big push for me, at least Forrest was, and for me to get into a lot of these opportunities.
I'm sure kids and adults even ask you now, how do they get started in this business? They ask me as well. I get messages on Instagram, Facebook as well. And I say the same thing that you said, just, help out anywhere you can, talk to anybody you can. And you said, things were left on red, which obviously I'm sure is something that you don't do now because you've been in that position. But what is your advice to these kids who have to use that perseverance, have to be gutsy, have to make that first step, and have to continue to push? What do you tell those kids as they're in the middle of this journey trying to get behind the wheel of a truck?
Figure a way to separate yourself from the others. That's honestly the biggest clue. And honestly, another thing that I like to tell them is honestly, you have to make sure that you have another plan. You know what I mean? Like you have to work at something else because this is something that a lot of people want to do. And, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the business. And you have to find a way to make yourself more valuable than the next person, to stick out more than the next person. So, that's why I like to work out. That's why I like to, keep myself fit and try to always experience different avenues to try to keep myself relevant, within the Monster Jam world. And thankfully, I'm also bilingual, so I'm really lucky to be able to speak another language, and that really helps me out. And I definitely know that's a big reason as to why I'm here, but I plan to use it to my favor. And for anyone out there that wants to be a Monster Jam driver, you have to really want it. At the end of the day, that's the biggest thing because if I wasn't working on the trucks, I was doing club help, and club help is definitely not easy. I mean, you are there from 6 a.m. till sometimes 2 a.m. All day working on this track. So you really have to go to the most extreme to really find out how passionate you are. And if you don't have that passion, unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. But you really have to stick past those tough times for sure.
Yeah, you have to have the passion. You have to have the drive. And if you want to succeed, you have to be willing and able to humble yourself. And I think that's what you have done many times throughout your early career. I met you for the first time in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm not sure you even remember, but you were there helping out. I think you were either crewing or on the dirt crew or club. You were there. That's all I know. And one of the drivers was unable. It was a triple threat series show. One of the drivers was unable to compete in the entire event. And you came out and drove the ATVs and speedsters. And I was like, who the heck is this kid? And, your name struck me, Elvis. I'm a big Elvis Presley fan. And you impressed the crap out of me. And so flashing forward now to see what you're doing, there's no surprise to a lot of people here. But who was your biggest influence? Who helped you out the most as you're trying to get to where you are today?
Honestly, I know it sounds cliche because everyone says it, but Tom was definitely, the biggest help for me just because I helped him out so many times that, and obviously he's in a position where he has a very big help and a very big push in whether you get the chance to try out or not. So I definitely wouldn't be here without him, but I also wouldn't be here with all the crew guys and girls that let me get the opportunity to help them out. And I think the coolest thing is seeing that some of them have driven monster trucks now, and that's super awesome. BJ was one of the guys that helped out. Lindsay, Scott Conley, we call him Haas. I've helped out Bobby Powers, call him Woos. So I've been through all of them, man, and even got to help out John Gordon whenever he was a crew chief for Ryan Anderson, son of a digger. So it's very crazy that I went from helping them out and passing them tools or fixing the fiberglass for them to now competing against them. It's very cool.
Well, it's not just competing against them. Now you're able to kick their butts any given night you want to. Coming up, we are going to talk about Elvis's breakout year behind the wheel of Great Clips Mohawk Warrior. That is next on Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil. Welcome back to Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil, the official Monster Jam podcast. I'm Scott Jordan, and this week I am joined by El Toro Loco's Elvis Lainez. So Elvis, you get your big break. You end up in El Toro Loco on a triple threat series, and then the world shuts down, the pandemic hits, and you come back in a huge way in 2021. You are behind the wheel of a second Great Clips Mohawk Warrior truck, and you literally light the world on fire, man. I mean, you had a run unlike anything I've ever seen from a young superstar. Talk about your emotions when you got the call that you were coming back and what you thought about being a part of Great Clips Mohawk Warrior.
Man, it was surreal. I remember they called me in August of 2020 to really kind of break it down to me that I was an option, one of the drivers that they had chosen to maybe drive this truck. And so when it came into fruition, man, it was awesome because Mohawk Warrior was actually one of the first trucks that I got to help on. I have pictures of me, Philip, and Christian Norman on it. Back when BJ was driving it. And so to like I said, man, the world is so crazy that it was such a full circle moment for me, and it was such an honor, and Bryce does a great job representing that brand. And I know I could never keep up with, his mic skills and things like that. So I knew that, I definitely had a big a load to carry, on my shoulders. So I wanted to come out and, give them the best of me. And honestly, that year, all I really was focused on was just becoming a better driver, man. And it's no joke that switching from the Toro Loco body to the Escalade body was such a big difference for me, man, and just getting so comfortable with the truck and being able to push the limits a little bit more. And also, I couldn't have done it with my, crew guy. I had Carlos on there. Carlos he's an amazing worker, man. And being a Latino team, it was super cool and it was a lot of fun. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to, be as successful without his hard work for sure. And, a big thank you to Great Clips and Monster Jam for giving me that opportunity, because I think that was a really big confidence booster for me moving forward.
Definitely put you on the map. You were winning multiple events. I felt like your name, what was in the results, is a winning something every single weekend. You were in the highlight reel, and then you started making your way up the power rankings. And I know Bryce was excited to have you on the team, but I made a joke with him. I said, "This kid's showing you up, man. Like he's out there winning." And we always joked about that. But what changed for you? You said the difference between the bodies, but did you do anything at all during the break to help you change your game? Because I mean, you were good when you came in, but you went to another level when you came back.
Absolutely not, man. All I was doing during the pandemic was reselling items and trying to make money, man. That's all I was doing. But like I said, I just think part of the thing that helped me so much was just having so much more visibility that I didn't have with Toros. So I just knew, like, okay, now I know where I'm at all the time throughout my runs. So I'm able to, be more in control of the truck. And sometimes with Toro Loco, unfortunately, you just kind of have to wing it. And eventually over time, you kind of do end up figuring out where you're at exactly. But sometimes you don't have that visibility that you end up needing in certain occasions that I could have with the Escalade body. So I just think that for me, that was kind of the biggest reason as to why I was able to develop so much.
Were you aware of the hype that started surrounding you, or was it just, white noise outside that you didn't pay attention to?
It was just white noise, man. That year it was such a fun group. I had Kristen Anderson, Colton Eichelberger, Tony Oaks. We were just having so much fun all year long, man. And so I just think that we were just kind of pushing ourselves to the limit. And thankfully, towards the end of that year, we were kind of loosening up a little bit on the COVID restrictions, and so we had more fans coming in. And my favorite show that year that sticks out to me was Rosemont, because it's a very big Latino market. But also, we were starting to fill more seats, and that energy there in Rosemont, man, it's contagious. And so I just, in my honest opinion, I think that was kind of where I was like, man, like looking back at my videos from 2019, like I've developed so much, man. And it was just kind of crazy for, when you look back and really realize how much you have grown as a driver. It's definitely something to be proud of.
And now you're back in El Toro Loco, coming off a season where you finished second on Arena Championship Series West. I know, obviously, you started in that truck, and it means a lot to you. More importantly, I know it means a lot to you to represent the Latino community, which is a huge part of the El Toro Loco fan base. So what is your response when you see all of these Latino fans coming out wearing the El Toro Loco clothes, the shirts, the hats, and holding up signs for you?
Man, it's awesome. And like I said, I don't ever really much think of it as like, I'm getting to drive. I just kind of feel like I'm, a fan that's getting the opportunity to be behind the wheel. And so there's, times in pit party where it kind of just kicks you back, and it almost, makes you kind of zoom out of the picture and be like, wow, like I'm actually doing this, I used to be the kid that was making the poster, staying up all night, or walking up to drivers and showing them a picture of me, and them like 5 years ago. And now families are doing that with me. And so I take a lot of pride in that, man. And in pit party, I always try to make sure that I'm giving the fans 110% of my energy and attention, and really giving them that experience that I wanted as a little kid. Because, when you're a little kid and you go through the Monster Jam line, you find out which drivers are your favorite because of their personality and which ones aren't. And that's just how it goes. So I want to make sure that every single fan that comes through my line, they leave there saying that they want to meet me again, or they want to come, back next year and grab a picture.
Well, it's not just pit party for you as well. I know we worked together in Huntsville, Alabama, a couple of years ago, and there was a fan there that you and myself and Kristen Anderson took some extra time to spend with after the event, and then I had to run off and get ready for the next event. And I come back, about 30 minutes later, you're still out there talking to this fan, so you go above and beyond. And I think is that because you were in their shoes and you want to be a fan, or just because you just want to give back to everybody and you legitimately want to meet everybody, or a little bit of both? I mean, because you definitely have the personality, and you are approachable, and you spend the time that is required and beyond.
I think at the end of the day, man, I definitely wouldn't have that attitude if it wasn't for my parents, of just, being respectful and making sure to treat everyone the same, no matter, what they look like, or what's going on. And, for me, as someone that grew up as a fan, I always want to make sure that every single person that I meet, I'm able to leave a lasting impression on them, but also that, I can make a memory for them. Because I know at the end of the day, man, I remember sitting outside of the gates and, getting a Max D spike, and you just kind of think of that as like the holy grail. You're holding the Lombardi trophy. And so with all the kids, whenever I have the opportunity to go above and beyond for them, man, I will do it. Like I know for sure that was a good point to bring up from Huntsville. And I also have this other buddy of mine. His name is Colton. And, I remember this 2 years ago, I gave him my El Toro Loco crew shirt. And then last year he ended up showing up to Omaha wearing it. And, so just seeing that, it's awesome, man. Because sometimes these kids are going through much tougher battles than we are. And sometimes, you just give them that hope, and you just give them that, that smile that their parents haven't been able to get out of them in a couple of days. And, it's very emotional for sure. And at the end of the day, like, that's the most important thing. That's why we're here. That's why we drive these Monster Jam trucks. Also we drive them to have fun and destroy them and put on an event for these awesome fans. But, we also want to make sure that we're making those memories for our fans and making them want to come back to us.
Now, I held a Lombardi trophy once in Baltimore. I don't think I was supposed to, because they swarmed from every direction to make sure that my fingerprints did not touch that thing ever again. So, it was a nice comparison for the Max D spike. You won Arena Freestyle of the Year in 2022. I'm sure that earned a lot of respect for you, correct? And you felt you arrived at that point?
Yeah, 2021, and I'm sorry, 2022 was kind of like a weird year for me. We started off with some hiccups. We missed a couple events, and, then we were able to catch back up at some point, and it just kind of fell off, but I just, every single freestyle, man, I always like to run hard and push the truck and give the fans a show, and really make them want to come back next year. Because I honestly think at the end of the day, freestyle is either what makes or breaks a new Monster Jam fan, and I always tell, somebody that if my favorite fan is a new Monster Jam fan, the person that has never seen us before, because that's the person that I want to impress, and that's the person that I want to sell a ticket to for next year.
Well, you sell a lot of tickets, my friend. Coming up next, I ask your questions to Elvis Lainez. More Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil, is next. We are back with Inside Monster Jam powered by Lucas Oil. I'm joined by Elvis Lainez. Each week you can ask your questions by following me on Instagram at ScottJordanMJSX. Elvis, I didn't know if these questions were going to be about Monster Jam trucks or going out on dates or fitness tips, but I got a little bit of everything here for you. We're going to start off with the hardest question. I had to ask this. This one comes from Kristen Anderson.
Oh.
She says, for Elvis, do you have a girlfriend? It's a tough question.
I do. Man. I do, man. She keeps bugging me, and I've told her I've taken, but nah, man. Like, yeah, I do have a girlfriend, and man, she's been awesome. Kristen's definitely a blessing in disguise for me. I really love her.
I said I put into good word, but I don't think that's necessary. The Camera 9785 wants to know, what's your favorite genre of music?
I love heavy metal for sure.
And I got a lot of questions here asking about the 600-pound squat. This one's from Jazz Crowy. There were like 3 of them wanting to know if that's ever coming, what you're doing to prepare for it.
We're working towards it, man. Every single time now, I like to lift a little bit heavier. I do what we call progressive overloading. So every single workout, you're slightly going a little bit more and more and gaining strength. And at least with my squats, man, I've really been working on my hamstrings. I feel like that's been helping.
Yeah, me too, my friend, me too. Big Yoda the Man wants to know, what's your favorite song by Elvis Presley? Great question.
Jailhouse Rock, for sure.
It's a good answer, man. A lot of respect there. This one's from I Love Bacon 1103. For Elvis, do you prefer arena or stadium events if you had the choice?
I haven't really ever technically driven a stadium before, so I'm going to have to go with, arenas for now. But obviously in the future, I would love to do stadiums.
All right, and then final question here. It looks like, what do you enjoy the most while being in the El Toro Loco truck, and how do you do those amazing stunts in the truck? This comes from Cool Cat 1499.
It's getting to represent all the Latinos and also getting to blow the smoke. So many people ask me about, am I going to be using the smoke that show? And the people love it, man. And I really only use it for donuts. And obviously, those are my red headlights, so they really give me a big push in the scoring for sure.
All right, Elvis, thanks a lot, man. Best of luck to you this summer and beyond. Looking forward to seeing you. That's all the time we have. But as for you, I'm going to see you right here next time on Inside Monster Jam, powered by Lucas Oil.